And now, 6 News proudly presents Veterans Voices.
Hello and welcome to our annual Veterans Voices special. I'm Sherry Jones, and for the next half hour, we're going to pay tribute to the men and women who have devoted their lives to serving our country. We'll show you the challenges they face and what's being done to tackle those challenges. But we're going to start with celebrating our veterans, including a couple of men who fought in World War II. They were in their 20s when the fighting took place, which means some of the survivors are turning 100 this year. And we'll start with a celebration with an Army and Air Force veteran who was granted his wish to rejoin the military after all these years.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our hero today. Come on out, Bob. 100 years old today, ladies and gentlemen. Robert Mooney, who was turning 100, and they asked him what he wanted for his birthday. And he said he wanted to serve in the military again. You're going to be in the military, but you got to have it all. This gentleman's in front of me here. He served his nation not once, but twice.
But I'm going to give you something today that will allow you to open every door in Battle Creek, whether you believe it or not. We're going to give you a key to the city of Battle Creek.
Let it be known by this certificate that Robert Francis Mooney is hereby an honorary member in good standing of the Michigan National Guard.
This is when you take the oath of office. As an honorary member of the Michigan National Guard, I, Robert Francis Mooney, do solemnly swear or affirm that you will support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America. Congratulations. You are now a full-fledged member of the Air National Guard. Here they are, look here. Team 34, World War II, in honor of Bob. Smokey Bob.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Bob. Happy birthday to you.
What a great story. And of course, he's not the only World War II veteran turning 100. Meet Paul Landsberg. He turned 100 back on August 31st. He celebrated the day with his kids and grandkids, great-grandkids, and Congresswoman Elissa Slotkin. Born in Detroit, Landsberg went to the University of Detroit and the University of Michigan before interrupting his studies to sign up for the war. He spent 3 years in the Navy, serving the Pacific and helping recover 2 Japanese submarines for the U.S. military to study. And Landsberg has 24 great-grandkids, one whom recently signed up for the Army National Guard. While some veterans finish their service and live long lives, others aren't as lucky. So a couple of months ago, the Michigan National Guard held an event to honor service members who lost their lives since September 11th, 2001. A couple of dozen in combat and a couple of hundred overall. Kyle Macon takes us to that solemn ceremony.
Of the 7,054 veterans lost since 9/11, 229 of them called Michigan home. The event started with the national anthem, followed by a 21-gun salute. Since 9/11, the Michigan National Guard has lost 21 soldiers in combat. And in front of the crowds, they announced the 229 names of all the service members lost.
Private First Class Brian Thomas. Private First Class Michael Thomason.
But for one general, he says that many National Guard soldiers live a normal life with jobs and families to come home to.
We work in the communities, we live in the communities, and now we serve in the communities wearing the uniform. Don't just see them as the military, but see them as neighbors and friends and co-workers, because that's really what the National Guard is.
Among honoring the fallen, new recruits for the Michigan National Guard were also sworn in.
And that I will obey the orders of the President of the United States.
Other military organizations were also in attendance, and one of them plans to start a cross-country road trip with each mile representing lives lost in service since 9/11.
It's going to be a 22-day mission starting here right now in the state capital here in Lansing, Michigan. And that 7,000 miles will have us land 22 days later on September 11th in our nation's capital.
Here for you in Lansing, Kyle Macon, 6 News.
Thank you, Kyle. While that ceremony focused on those who have died in the last couple of decades, there's a group of people in Jackson who are on a mission to pay tribute to those further back in time. It's a museum dedicated to members of the armed forces. Luke Snyder shows us how they hope it inspires generations to come.
I think what more than the items, you see the stories.
Bringing history to life, one mannequin and one story at a time. That's what Dennis Skupinski and a group of volunteers are doing at the Michigan Military Heritage Museum in Jackson.
When you see it, we want you to see an actual soldier.
The stories are on display front and center, from Marines to nurses to pilots to World War I trench fighters. Each one is handcrafted and dressed head to toe in their authentic uniforms.
Usually we try to have a story, you know, of someone who wore that uniform. And even though the mannequin doesn't look like the person, it still gives you the feel that, okay, somebody wore this and this is what they did.
They're unique stories of people from Michigan who served their country, like actor George Papard.
He's one of the, 5 top actors in the world. You know, he was in Breakfast at Tiffany's, Carpetbaggers, and Blue Max. I mean, he was level actor, and he's from, Michigan, and he was in the Marine Corps.
That's just one example. The real-life pictures of dozens of veterans decorate the space, with some of their uniforms and other pieces donated from the community. For Jackson veteran and volunteer at the museum, Merv Wygant, it's about keeping these stories and legacies alive.
We get the gamut. We get the items that came in from somebody who did very little of the war and people who have Purple Hearts and Bronze Stars. So yeah, it's a very wide range of things we see.
Skupinski says he hopes when people come through, they walk away inspired and with a new appreciation for all who serve their country.
For society, what they've done for the state. And so if you do wear the uniform for the armed services, we want you to be proud of it and know that there is a history behind it.
Here for you in Jackson, Luke Snyder, 6 News.
When we come back, we'll tackle a problem that's affected many members of the military and big changes on that front this year to make sure that they get the help they need. Veterans Voices will be right back. Welcome back. Veterans won a major political battle this year after Congress passed and President Biden signed a bill to help more veterans exposed to toxic burn pits get the health care they need. Raquel Martin has more on their victory in D.C.
A great emotional release.
I've been fighting for this for years.
Veterans and their loved ones are celebrating a major victory. President Biden signed the PACT Act, a bill that expands health care coverage to veterans exposed to toxic burn pits.
This is the most significant law our nation has ever passed to help millions of veterans.
Many veterans say they suffered in the shadows.
I was 28 years old and they did a DEXA scan and they told me I had the bone structure of a 58-year-old man.
John Bannon says he and his entire troop returned home with invisible wounds and conditions the VA refused to treat.
We're recognized now. We couldn't even get the government to recognize us.
President Biden says starting immediately, veterans will have access to health care coverage for 23 conditions that were previously denied.
It's just a bittersweet moment.
For Danielle Robinson and many other families, the coverage comes too late. Robinson is the widow of Heath Robinson, who the bill is named after.
He was around a burn pit for 3 months in Iraq.
Their daughter, Brielle, was by the president's side during the signing.
I didn't see this coming at all when we were fighting our battle, but I'm grateful for it happening, and I'm grateful for being the face of this if I had to be.
Now, VA Secretary Dennis McDonough says his administration is already hiring thousands to handle an influx of patients no longer in the shadows.
VA is ready to take this on.
In Washington, Raquel Martin.
Well, after years of work, the PACT Act had been slated to pass quickly this summer, but there was a last-second holdup after Republicans in the U.S. Senate shot down the previously bipartisan bill. Michigan Senator Gary Peters says he's glad they were finally able to make it over that hurdle and get the bill passed. He says it will make it easier for veterans who are suffering and survivors of those who didn't make it to get the help they need.
The PACT Act, we've been working on it for some time, but we're just so happy that it is now passed, signed into law, and as a reality for veterans. We expect up to 3.5 million veterans across the country will now qualify for benefits that they have earned and deserve.
Obviously, it's not just members of Congress who are celebrating. We caught up with some veterans from Mid-Michigan who say that before, they just weren't able to get medical help. Lansing's Philip Button says that his breathing issues stem from his service in Iraq. He says back in 2008, he spent several hour shifts in a security tower near a burn pit. And when he tried to get help from the VA to help treat him, they kept turning him down. And Kevin Hensley says the PACT Act means that the country is keeping its promise to the people who serve it.
You know, believe what we say when we say this happened over there, and you know, give us the benefit of the doubt.
You told us if we served and we served honorably, you were going to take care of us. And that's what this showed.
Now, the bill doesn't just apply to more recent military ventures. It stretches all the way back to Vietnam and the Gulf War, as well as missions that happened after September 11th. When we come back, the VA will help people with their burn pit issues. But we'll tell you about another problem that veterans face by a department that's literally full of paper pushers. That's when Veterans Voices returns. While most of America now functions digitally with laptops, smartphones, and tablets, millions of military records are still only on paper. And that makes it very difficult for many veterans who need those records. Kyle Macon has a look at one organization that's trying to help.
Paper documents pose two big problems. They could be lost in a fire like we saw in 1973 when over 18 million veteran records were lost in a single day. But most importantly, veterans are stuck waiting for their benefits because paper slows down the process.
Almost all of the military records were still in paper form and something called microfiche. Now, there are only 2 companies in the country right now that even service microfiche machines.
This is Joshua Parrish, the co-founder of VetLife, describing the injustice veterans face as they struggle to find their records. The problem is, as they wait, they're missing out on the benefits they deserve.
Imperative that they have their military records to prove if they were injured on active duty service. And without those records, their requests are going to be denied.
And to make matters worse, the government program that helps veterans obtain their benefits and records is understaffed.
We have 2 federal transition assistance advisors for 575,000 service members. We have 1 in the UP and 1 in the Lower Peninsula.
This leaves thousands of veterans behind.
With 5 clients a day, 5 days a week, 52 weeks a year, our TAA from the Lower Peninsula and the Upper Peninsula would work with less than 0.5% of the veteran population in the state of Michigan.
Cyrus says to make sure no veterans are left behind, we need to digitalize the records. And VetLife says we can't stop there, as veterans need to be able to access their records on an app.
They'll also be able to scroll down to their community resource page and say, okay, I'm in this county. They click on that county and automatically it tells you where your community resources are.
Parrish says he will not stop until veterans know they are not alone in this transition to civilian life.
So far, Parrish has got $2.5 million allocated for this project, but he says this is just the start. He estimates it could take up to $9 million to complete, but in return would save thousands of veteran lives.
When we return, we'll take a look at another step that's being taken to care for people who spent their life in service. Stay tuned. Veterans Voices will be right back.
When I got out, I didn't want to admit that there was anything wrong because I felt like a failure. And then I realized, there's nothing to be ashamed of. So I started talking to someone. Maybe you are fine. If you're not, it's okay.
You're watching a public service announcement. It's designed to help veterans struggling with injuries that are not visible to the naked eye, their mental health. So if you need help or you know someone who does, check out the address on your screen, va.gov/reach. Helping veterans is also front and center for a group in Jackson County. Luke Snyder shows us how a new space in Brooklyn is ready to meet veterans right where they are.
Nestled off the side roads in Brooklyn sits this White House.
If you just need to be someplace safe and welcoming, this home is always yours.
Annie Callahan's dedicated her life to supporting veterans and their mental health. This home is a part of her latest mission. She's working to help turn this space into a one-stop resource for the people who serve this country and their families.
For those people who don't really have enough in them right now to join a meeting or join a structured program, just come in. You want to sit inside and watch TV? That's okay by us. You want to go sit on the deck and have a bagel and coffee? Fine by us.
It's an approach, she says, meets them right where they are in a comfortable environment around others who can relate to what they're going through. Vietnam veteran Ralph Yard says he's seen it work in his own life.
I was kind of reluctant to even join, but once I did, I jumped in with both feet because it's a brotherhood.
Other veterans like Randy Evans are also jumping on board. He's preparing to build a telehealth counseling center here where veterans can get personal support and access to resources with the help of Lifeways in Jackson.
I just would like to see them get that welcome home and get the services that they need to transition back into a civilian life.
The program will also include activities from kayaking to fishing to martial arts. Yard says he has a message for any veteran who doesn't know where to turn.
Get involved with other veterans, people that understand you. We're always available. Our ears are open, our shoulders are broad.
Callahan says seeing the veterans come together in one place gives her hope for what this space can be.
When people see what they've created, it's beautiful.
If you're a veteran wanting to get involved, check out our Scene on 6 section on WLNS.com. Here for you in Brooklyn, Luke Snyder, 6 News.
There is also a plan in Congress that would give veterans some help so that they can stay in their own homes. The number of veterans eligible for nursing home care will rise by more than 500% over the next 20 years. But all of them won't need that much help. So a new bill would help some vets pay for assisted living so they could stay in their own homes. Not only is it better for them, it would also save the government money since having them in full-time nursing homes is more expensive. Well, when we come back, we'll introduce you to a veteran who went from serving his country to serving his community, literally. We're going to end our special tonight with a story about a veteran on a different kind of mission. After serving his country, he's part of a couple that's serving their community, literally. Luke Snyder shows us how.
It's a story of two people accomplishing their dreams together.
I'm in an age where it's either do it now or forget about it.
And the lessons learned along the way.
Just keep going, keep moving forward.
Dave and Tom Crogary have been married for 8 years. Now they both own Crow's Nest Cafe in Jackson.
Order up. Thank you.
Dave's known he wanted to run a restaurant since he was 9 years old, flipping pancakes at home. He spent 30 years working his way up in the restaurant business, but almost gave up. Now in the kitchen of his own restaurant, he's exactly where he's supposed to be.
I don't want no regrets. I want to do what I want to do, and if I fail at it, well, at least I tried it.
Tom is a 6th-generation Army veteran. He knew he would one day serve his country, and he did. He was in military intelligence and a paratrooper.
I've taken off in more airplanes and helicopters than I've landed in.
Tom served his country during Don't Ask, Don't Tell, a time when military members weren't allowed to be asked about their sexual orientation.
I felt like I was lying, I couldn't be true, and just not being my authentic self.
But Tom says his time in service helped teach him what it means to give back.
The Army taught me that I could push myself much further than I thought I could.
And today he's doing what he's always wanted to do, serve his community and create a space where everyone is welcome.
You can get a hot meal here. You can get a hot meal and a good conversation and feel welcomed. It's all about feeling welcomed.
It's a mission they share together.
The more different people are, the more colorful the world is. So why not? Why wouldn't you want a beautiful, colorful world?
Tom has a message for his younger self and for anyone who feels like they don't fit in.
If somebody tries to tell you that you're not worth your weight in gold, just smile at them. Just smile and say, yes, I am.
The cafe is open from 6 a.m. to 3 p.m. and all veterans and first responders drink for free. Here for you in Jackson, Luke Snyder, 6 News.
Well, thank you for watching Veterans Voices. And if you have been or are a member of the military, thank you for your service.